And we are live, people.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody. I'm, of course, Mystic Mutter, and here with me tonight, we've got the fabulous Kurt Vinlander.
Mm-hmm.
Introduce yourself to all the wonderful people,
Hi,
my
I'm
friend.
Kurt Vinlander. I am a Norse and Gaelic pagan, leaning more towards the Gaelic side these days, and an anarchist without adjective, social ecologist, and communist without affiliation.
Cool,
Howdy, I use they them pronouns.
righteous, and if anybody's curious, it's he, him for me. But thanks so much for coming by. My God, it's really nice to. Oh, that's
Yeah,
great. I think
yeah,
I
I have a
have
lot
one
of
of the.
skulls.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, this one in
it's
New York. Sorry, I'm getting distracted because
no,
normally I
it's all
record at
good.
my desk, but I actually have an office chair, or not an office chair. I have a folding chair set on top of my bed, so you can see all
Yeah.
my flags.
See, I'm sitting on my
Yeah,
living room couch right now because my wonderful fiance is doing some teaching on the computer in the bedroom, which is
yeah,
where all my cool props are. So
yeah.
you know,
I just got a bunch of
earning
like
their,
shitty
earning their keep
Bionicle
while I'm out here having fun.
bayonets and all sorts of
Oh,
shit
nice,
over here. But
man.
yeah,
Okay, no, yeah.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your path, Kurt. How
So,
did you come to be a hybrid of Norse and Gaelic pagan?
well, good question. It started one day when I was kidnapped from my village by a raiding ship. No,
Good night, everybody.
just I'd always been a weird kid. Always been into like fantasy and shit.
Hell yeah.
And getting to the history behind that, a kind of similar thing happened with dystopian fiction and me finding socialism through George Orwell.
Mm.
Um, but I got really into fucking Tolkien and shit in middle
Yeah.
school, and uh, I started, or really late elementary school when I was really little, and I started getting more into mythology through that. Like, I read Beowulf and shit, and from there the interest grew until just one day. This was in my freshman year of high school. I just found the book of illustrated Norse myths at the library, at the school
Killer.
library, and I took it home. And the story of Tyr really stuck out to me. This was around when I was also developing my politics and such, and my musical taste. And it's a very formational period. And the um, the whole story of the binding of Fenrir, and with that
Yeah.
really it really called out to me in a variety of ways. It spoke to the ethics I'd always had growing up and stuff of putting a large emphasis on self-sacrifice and stuff, which maybe I owe that to Sunday school, the whole self-sacrifice thing. But
Well, who can say?
and just the courage and the willingness to do what is necessary to help the people to protect the people you care about is something that really spoke to me. And I found in Tier, on like a growing up, grew up in a Christian household. How surprising, but it wasn't a very. It was a very meh, wet blanket Christian household. It was
Ooh.
non-denominational. We went to church like on average, like every other Sunday, not like specifically, but like we tried to go, or at least my parents tried to go every other Sunday, but they weren't really that well with it. They've gotten a lot more Christian since the divorce. Well, at least my dad has. But
Interesting.
yeah. Um, and it just I never meshed at all. I was always a massive troublemaker. Um, I was shocking moral values through my use of Lego Star Wars since I was like 5. On the DS, I
Gamers
would,
rise up.
yeah,
Oh, I love it.
yeah. But it never made any sense. I remember asking about dinosaurs and shit, and none of it ever. It just Christianity just did not click with me at all.
Mm.
Um, and I looked around at other things for a while before I found this Norse myth thing. I remember seeing a Vice video about neo-pagans, but I think that was about black metal or some dumb shit like that. Just kidding. Black metal's
Mm.
awesome, but
Yeah. No,
it,
it's
that was around when Vice was starting to get more livy. Um, but like I was into humanism for a little while. I looked at Satanism, not my thing. And Buddhism very briefly. Didn't get a whole lot out of Buddhism. In addition, I completely forgot to mention I'm all over the place, but I'm also a Taoist. That's not strictly pagan in any sense. But I got into Taoism a bit later through Star Wars, actually.
Oh yeah, so like looking at, for example, the philosophy of the Jedi Knights and saying, that sounds familiar. Where did old George get this stuff?
The whole just looking into the history behind, because I grew up just a brain full of all this gamer junk, all this fantasy stuff. Like way before I read a spell book, I was reading this shit. And I was super into Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and stuff. And it no longer felt like I was collapsing a lot, because I was a very I have very bad ADHD. I have a lot of things that ostracize me from society. The queer stuff didn't start coming in until later. Though looking back, there's very small predilections or very small pointers towards that. But I always just felt disconnected from the society around me. I felt alienated, as Marx would say, in a lot of different ways from the society around me. And in these stories, I found solace in these fantasy stories. But behind that, way buried underneath it, there is something genuine there, which I found through initially through the Old Norse sagas, but I've been getting more and more into my Gaelic roots. Not as a matter of I'm 12% Irish on the DNA test or whatever the fuck, but because can I flip the camera? Because of this shit.
Please do.
That right there.
Hell yes.
Starry Plow.
For anybody who doesn't know, that's the Starry Plow. That's a modern version of the battle standard of the Irish Citizens Army, which was started by a loyal socialist and wobbly James Connolly of blessed memory.
On my anarchy jacket, I got a little pin of James Connolly. Right
yes,
you can't yes, too shiny, but there he is.
Oh,
it actually says Ames because the J fell off, but
well, hey, battle damage, right? That really makes it even cooler.
Yeah, I think it may have been like that when I bought it, but whatever. Got that in the GPO gift shop. Well, in my one trip.
Oh, nice.
But I just this.
Wish I'd known his story when I
visited
with my family.
Yeah, just this beginning to feel connected to a whole nother world, a whole nother realm. Was it Paul Eluard? I can't remember what his first name is, but some French guy said, and I got this from a John Halstead article. There is another world, and it is this one. I was falling a lot into these, Peter Kaufman called them cultivated identities of Star Wars and Halo and all this Elder Scrolls, all this stuff that, as great as they are as forms of recreation, don't really help bring you back into the world. They kind of, if you're busy with video games all day, you're not going to have any time to care about politics. You're not going to have any time to care about the world actually around you. But I found an element, a dimension to the world we're in that I was not aware of before through paganism. And it started with me being interested in the stories, but I felt a genuine connection. And from there, I was reading some of the stuff Jackson Crawford was putting on the internet, and I started getting more interested in the history, and especially also the democratic tradition of Norse cultures. My great grandfather was from Denmark, so it's 4 generations or something, and that is an element of the family has remained, and I've always got a sense of the Scottish culture as well. And looking over the history, where my clan, wherever the fuck that is, originated was they were Norse who basically Gaelicized after settling in the islands to the northwest of Scotland, just off the coast, the Hebrides and whatnot.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. but like it was a process of like throwing away all the plastic lightsabers and finding what had inspired them, which was these stories of actual swords. And in this, I
Right.
found strength, and I started to actually feel things, and I got past just think. And initially, I was of the like the Carl Jung archetypal thing that like this is like a placebo effect stuff. And for a while,
Yeah,
I
this
was
is
like in a dual. I may or may not still be in like a dual phase way of thinking about Schrodinger's polytheist, where it's like maybe it's just an idea, maybe it's a real tangible entity. And I think I've arrived at the conclusion that's the same thing.
yeah.
That like they exist, whether it's an idea or a tangible entity, and the difference between that, well, it's going to keep doing whatever the fuck it is it's doing. And part of
Mhm.
that mystery is part of that mist is what is so great about paganism. And it
Well, what I've always loved is how
yeah.
active it makes you. It makes you an
Mhm.
active participant. You're not just emailing God like with
Yeah,
prayer.
it's just like
You know,
listen to me. It's
yeah,
like, oh no, I'm
and
saying some shit on fire, and some
you're
stuff
not
actually
necessarily
happens.
going with hat in hand.
Like
There's a
some
level of
mhm.
reverence, but
Like
yeah,
I was initially attracted to Tyr, but I'm definitely a Thor guy these days. As commonplace that is just because he's defender of the working man. But I have a lot of great experiences with lightning bolts.
yeah.
Um,
Well, that's the bit of Thor that nobody sees.
yeah.
Partly thanks to Marvel, and then partly again thanks to
Oh my god.
the uglier side
I wish
of
there were
Nordic
bad
paganism. You know.
movies. Because if the Thor movies were bad, then I wouldn't also like them. But I like them because they're good. They're good like space fantasy. But
Yeah,
also they make it impossible to talk about my religion.
I know. Oh,
Yeah, but
what's worse in at the end of the day? What makes more trouble for you? Talking about your faith, the the Marvel universe understanding of Thor, or or the
the
whole like
demon worship.
Norse paganism. Isn't that what all those Nazis do?
Oh yeah, the Nazi
You know,
thing. Thank you,
yeah,
fellow anarchists. I love you. You know what? It's only ever white anarchists as well. Whenever I like mention
interesting.
it, whenever I run into anarchists of color and we start getting on about paganism, like the other guy, I met this this new African guy, comrade, and he noticed my Mjolnir is like, that's awesome because you're anarchist. Obviously, you're not a Nazi for hanging out with all these fucking anarchists. And he was like, that's awesome that you're also reconnecting with your tribal culture. And they fucking get it the same thing. Because, like, whether it's Santeria or in, like, if you're Norse, it's Osseteria, whatever the fuck you want to call it, heathenism. Or
Yeah,
if you're Afro Caribbean, it's like Santeria and whatnot or Vodun in
Vodou,
Croatian and whatnot.
Candomblé,
Yeah,
in
is
Brazil, that
that
sort of thing.
every
I've
people in the
just been reading
world
about all of
have,
this.
yeah, every people in the world has some kind of deep connection. And lately I've been getting more into the Gaelic thing for a variety of reasons. I find Norse has a fair amount of feminine divinity in it, but
Mm.
as I find more, in terms of actual tangible history, there's a lot more in Ireland of
Hmm.
the feminine strength and whatnot. And I've been tapping into that part of my life more in my ongoing gender fuck explosion in slow motion train wreck of the non-binary individual I am. This has been something that's been calling to me a lot more. And by a lot more, I mean a lot more. Like
Well,
I
you're
listen
trying
to
to
so
tune in
much
your
Irish
mix
folk
right.
music.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like getting it's like you're trying to dial in a really nice EQ on a fancy old school stereo or something.
Mm-hmm. I want
I
to pretend I know
read
what
you
that means.
100%. And honestly, hearing your
Yeah.
faith story was amazing because I kept going like, "Yup, weirdo, yup,
And just spending
fantasy,
time
yup,
like
mythology, big yup." You know,
spend all my
and
time playing video games and going from playing video games to actually hanging out in the fucking woods and actually like spending time in nature. It's so much fucking more fulfilling because what's awesome about Skyrim, what's awesome, like fuck, I've spent so much fucking time in Skyrim, it's shameful. But like what's awesome about Star Wars and stuff is that there is that fundamental universal element that connects with everyone, of there being something more to the world, of us actually having more agency in this world than we think we do. But it's behind a lot of plastic. And that core element is strong enough that it still draws to us. But ultimately, those energies get redirected into plastic rather than into the world.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Like so many people who do enough meditating or enough certain substances I won't name. You find after a while that there's a part of your experience that's organic like a rose bush, and there's a part of your experience that's artificial like a robot, as they put it in the Illuminati trilogy.
It's finding solidarity with the world around you, with the trees, with the animals, the energies. I'm vegetarian now. Never in a million years would I thought I would go vegetarian, but here the fuck I am. And I didn't go vegetarian because I was convinced by a logical argument. I went vegetarian because I started spending more time in circles where people are more vegetarian and pagan and leftist circles, especially at my local Food Not Bombs. And yeah, and it helps connect you with the world around you rather than just hoping for some dream, some pie in the sky when you die. Like,
that's a lie.
Fuck, that's a quote from Dump the Bosses Off Your Back, or it's a some Union song.
Pie in the Sky, the Preacher and the Slave.
Yeah, Preacher and the Slave, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
That's a good one.
Utah Phillips used to do a great version of that, of course. And
rest in power, Utah Phillips.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I love this season because one of my practices is to give part of, the first sip of my coffee to the Shades of the Dead. And I figure that, your blood relatives, that's a good thing. That's a good group of people to recognize, but also anybody who went before you in your craft.
You want to see what I have representing
teachers,
the ancestors on my shrine?
Please, yes. Ooh. Hell yeah.
North Vietnam. They got Mokash here. I got Thor. My shrine is in a sorry state because I do not. I'm in the contrary,
it's cool. Right now. I love how I love how
here.
Anybody who wasn't
Scotty's represented by Mother Anarchy from
I love it.
Artist something Lemonenko. I can't remember his first name.
Mr. Muckman.
Yeah, but the artist is something Lemonenko. And this is from a summit on Gabriel, the new African leader who tried to lead a slave revolt.
Oh wow!
And this is Bridget, of course. And this was a hooded raven feather I got in Ireland, which represents Bav. Yeah, and I have death above everything for reasons represented from the version from the Neil Gaiman and Chris Bacalo comics because I love that series.
Nice.
In Ireland here.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman is one of those artists where you look at his work and you go, "This guy gets it."
This guy gets it. Yeah,
his work is
his Twitter not so much, but his work, yes.
Well, yeah.
Speaking of death,
can't have it all.
The compendium of all the death comic books, which were very formational for me. It's just so weird because I've been reconnecting with like 30-something, like late 30-year-old goth moms about the Neil Gaiman comics. Yeah. But yeah, it was basically my journey, and it kept growing through a lot of sad winters where I was able to find connection in the suburban hellscape I grew up in.
Yeah.
Parks and stuff.
I think a lot of folks out there are going to be heading back to those suburban hellscapes, whether for Turkey Day coming up in a couple days or at the end of next month for various things.
Real talk. Tofurkey is way better than turkey, and that might just be because people don't know how to cook turkey properly, but like it's fucking real good. Tofurkey, check it out.
I will have to. I've gotta stand up for my parents. Turkey, they always go overboard, and I think they had, I think they had some amazing rush of good luck just finding each other, because I don't know if it was growing up through the 60s or whatever, but just they were so mad about fresh food and new recipes all the time, and they passed that on to me. So it's like, we'll do the traditional fixings, but there'll always be some new recipe or something on the table somewhere.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I think that I think that hearing stories from people like you, and people like me too, it's it's a nice reminder that there's other weirdos out there, and we're all pulling together.
Yeah,
it's all good. Yeah. One video I've been tossing around an idea about making, and my significant other was unsure of how it would play. Can I bounce it off you?
Sure.
Bounce the idea real quick here. I want to do a video encouraging people to talk politics with anyone they feel they can get a decent hearing from in their family as they head home for the holidays.
One thing that can often be neglected. I was reading this article by Justin King, aka Below the Fifth Column, about what anarchists can learn from cartels. Most of it you can learn from other places as well, but what they can learn from fucking drug cartels, which they're still here, they're still doing.
I mean, you gotta,
as fucked up as they are. But one was targeted recruitment, and how like you need to find an in. You need to find something that you can connect on. Like the same way I connected with Pagan, the way I connected with the Aesir was through the story of Tyr and the Binding of Fenrir. Which it's amazing
the right story
and completely different takes on that, because I've been good friends with people who connect with the exact opposite version of that story, where they connect a lot with Fenrir's side of it. So it's a whole thing. There's a lot of room there for moving around. But what was I talking about? Sorry, ADHD, like I said.
About organizing the family.
Yeah, you gotta find an in. You gotta find something you can connect on. My dad was a Christian. There is actually leftist element to Christianity. I don't think.
Oh yeah.
Christianity, radical Christianity, I still think it has its issues fundamentally. But yeah, you talked with
Damon Garcia.
Damon Garcia.
Yeah. Wonderful conversation. He's
I like his stuff. What the fuck is this?
Oh yeah.
Sorry. My books are a fucking mess, and I'm finding weird shit in there.
You weren't kidding.
Yeah.
That's okay. They were words at my place until my wonderful fiance channeled Ganymede, the cupbearer of the Greek gods, of course, and he's been helping us intermittently straighten the place out, which again is one of those weird fringe benefits of our different paths.
Every time I clean up like a corner, and then I just forget to clean up the rest. So it's but yeah, you got to find something. You need to find some shared ground that you can connect.
Yes, I mean, there's always something, and I recently saw on I can't think of his actual name, but the fellow who runs Reeducation channel.
Aaron, that's my friend Aaron. Yes. We're tight.
Yes. So he was talking about going door to door for socialism, and I'm like, door to door is nice, but I've actually done door to door. Like my first job before college was working for the Sierra Club, knocking on doors for the biggest environmental group, the oldest.
I thought you meant Sierra Games.
Yeah. So I'm knocking on doors in Connecticut, right? And it's just super bougie, and I got the cops called on me, and that was a whole thing.
Yeah, no, when it's bougie neighborhoods, you just can't fuck.
You can't win. And I mean, you can if you get somebody who's just like, oh, sure, I'll give to you or whatever.
Yeah, no,
But
door
I
to
got a lot
door
of
is almost there. It needs to be person. It needs to be neighbor to neighbor, person to person.
yes,
Now I'm in a
exactly.
bit of a
You have
rut
no
because I'm
pull at the
still,
door. You
yeah,
have no
because I'm still
in.
living with my parents in suburbia for about the next year. While I finish trade school. So, but like the minute I fucking find a place in the city with some roommates, which will probably end up being comrades, because I'm very involved in the anarchist scene in the city, but I'm commuting in for praxis.
And hey, that's real.
Yeah.
For things you can't do
Just
alone, you can't do alone.
yeah, is just the second, like start meeting all the neighbors and establish a local food not bombs, or establish at least some kind of neighborhood assembly to try and solve problems. You go door to door and get people's problems. But
Yeah.
that's all that left is shit. I want to talk about paganism tonight. So, how are we doing in chat, by the way?
It's
Not there.
pretty empty, but
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, it's going
whatever.
into the recording.
Yeah. But
we should
yeah,
you should get on that call too.
So yeah,
my
wonderful other half was a little bit worried that because, you know, I do have a supportive family, thank goodness. They're fairly comfortable again, thank goodness. But, you know, she thought that the call to organize family might not play well with everybody. But I think that as long as I make sure to say that, you know, if you can get away with this, you know, if you've got the time and the spoons,
like boomers are just not worth it almost all the time.
Well, I think that there are some boomers out there. You don't hear about them because they're not out there, you know, they're not, you know,
boomering it up.
They're not boomering all over the place.
Yeah,
you know, making these
there's good boomers. There's good boomers, but I mean like boomers who aren't already comrades.
And
but yeah,
you know, but like my folks, I could organize my folks. I could turn my folks around.
On the pagan side,
I probably should.
Family dinners are always very interesting.
Oh yeah.
Ocean
well, with me, it's always like, you know, my folks aren't terribly religious, but I can always just go, hey, if you don't like me talking politics, I can always talk religion.
Yeah, those are my two favorite subjects. I'm great at my favorite subjects are religion, politics, and guns. So.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would play even worse than religion with my friends.
It's but, like not only do I think you atheist and you Christian are wrong, but if you have an atheist liberal and a Christian conservative and then you throw me in that mix, it's just
oh wow.
it's
like... See, I'm torn at that point because I've got this like cartoon.
Do we team up against the atheist, or do we team up
where I just want
to Christian? Yeah.
Yeah, you want to stir shit up like it's 4chan, but you can't because it's family dinner.
And well, family dinner, I just wouldn't even like family dinner. Just like the sooner I get off this topic with my dad, the sooner we can start talking about The Witcher or whatever, the better. By the way, Witcher 3, best pagan video game, whatever the fuck year that came out.
No kidding.
It's actually really good.
I'll have to give that a shot.
Like the weird thing is that it has fictional religion, but then like the like Norse stand-in culture just has normal Norse paganism. It's all the same gods and like fairly accurate rituals and shit.
Huh.
That is which wild. Is odd, but it's actually quite respectful to
2 seconds. I'm sorry, everybody. Will you excuse me for 2 seconds? An emergency has risen on my end of the stream. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So hey chat. I know you're not there, but how's it going? You want to see a secret? I don't just have one skull. I have many skulls. This is Cheeky Dan. He's a big head motherfucker. Bit of a head ass. We got Crackhead Jack. Got him in New York. He's pretty cool. We got Slick Philly, smooth as hell, too shiny. I have a little one called Lil Ymar, who is holding up the portrait of Scothy right now. So, and we got my favorite skull, Deus Voltius. He's a dead crusader that I put runes on.
Oh,
I
cool.
got this out of all places.
Ren Fair?
Great Wolf Lodge, which, if you don't know, is an indoor family water park retreat / camping themed.
The camping themed hotel, right?
Yeah, it's like a camping themed hotel, which is everything's like a plastic tree. It's the weirdest fucking shit, but they have this like Magic Quest thing.
See, I'm a New Englander, and I see I see the billboards for it every time I go up to some of my Ren fairs. But yeah, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, shout out to Maryland Ren Fair. You're too crowded, but you'd be cool otherwise.
Oh, I hear great things about the Marf.
Yeah,
if you
it's
feel
so fucking crowded. I didn't go this year. I'm glad I didn't, because I saw pictures. It was packed, more packed than the streets of Lebanon right now.
Hot damn.
Riots.
Well, I got to give big ups to New Hampshire Ren Fair, because not only do they host my band and they make us feel very, very welcome, they host my pirate crew as well, and
Awesome.
And all their profits go to local Meals on Wheels and food bank. So yeah, if you're anywhere near New Hampshire in the merry month of May, check it out. It's a great time and a great cause.
Yeah, I'm out here in Virginia and Richmond. Well, the suburbs around
RVA.
Richmond, but yeah, RVA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gentrification. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
More craft breweries.
I had a friend
Can we
in
get
college.
a black metal band that burns down craft breweries? I'm just putting that out there into the ether.
I mean,
somebody else pick up on that.
Oh boy. I know exactly how much of my local economy depends on craft breweries, so I am honestly torn. But I understand where you're coming from. It's like you can't heave a brick around me without hitting a crumbling mill town. It's absolutely maddening how many of these like old mills and things are just standing there looking like corpses but made out of brick.
You could reanimate them, turn them into collective covens.
Exactly.
There's so many like cool houses that if real estate wasn't so fucking expensive would be a perfect place to have a little coven.
Yes.
Shout out to Earthfolk Collective, by the way. They're not like specifically pagan, but they're like, I feel like in 100 years, there's definitely going to be, and like out of Wicca and the various other pagan things, I think here especially there'll be more elements of various West African indigenous traditions as well. There's going to be some kind of like original Virginian paganism that arises out of these ashes, if you like 100, 200 years in the future, because you have all the general like hippie new age stuff, and you got the more explicit pagan reconstruction stuff, and you got the Wicca and whatnot, but there's a general sense of wanting to reconnect with the land, even if it's not in a specific spiritual framework, that is definitely building in a big way.
Yeah, I think that too. And actually, it's another Norse pagan that I've known for a good long time. My buddy Craig, and he once told me this story where the bulk of the story is, it's many years in the future after a total ecological and economic collapse. So it's many generations after that. And you've got these tribal people around a big bonfire, and the little children are saying, "Skywatcher, tell us the story." And so the Skywatcher tells about the collapse in the oral tradition of this tribe of people. And then, so he finally tells about, all those people lived in boxes, they worked in boxes, and they died in boxes.
Right,
and when
that's my thing.
When they wanted to feed, they went to the food box. And when they wanted to entertain themselves, they went to the story box, and all this stuff.
It's all
And then finally at the end, they applaud. There's a brief silence, and then one of the little kids turns to him and says, "Skywatcher, tell us the one with R2 and C3PO."
Bro, that's the thing.
But I think
There's
those are
a
gonna
great
last
song.
forever.
Oh yeah, Star Wars is gonna be around for fucking forever. It's not going. It's not going fucking anywhere. So I just knocked my. What the fuck? I like knocked my headphones off my hand. It gets caught on my foot, and the headphones come off the wire.
Oh no.
One second. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I think there's a song, Last iPhone off of Evan Greer's latest album, She, Her, They, Them. It's not on YouTube. You can find it. I've been listening to it on Spotify. I think it's on Bandcamp as well and a couple other places. But cool. it covers that, and the lyrics go. It's a whole song, but like part of the lyrics are like, after the last iPhone dies, if the last CD is scratched to oblivion, we will still have campfires, we will still have stories, we'll still have drums. And I think that I don't think it's a coincidence that communism and paganism are coming back at the same time. I don't think it's a coincidence that they're coming in a period where the old ways of doing things are falling apart. Like Christianity is just like that, and I think it's been like kind of like that a lot. But I think like as soon as like Gen Z going to I was part of Gen Z going to fucking high school, like the amount of people who are atheists vastly outnumber the people who are Christian, and a sizable chunk of people are like I knew more witches than I knew like super devout. I knew more witches than I knew Catholics. I knew a couple Catholics, but I knew way more witches. And
that's
partly
wild.
that's me, which with art students. But and even then, that's probably like a dozen out of a school of like 1,200 people. But like I think as soon as like they stop getting counted under what their parents' religion is, which for the last couple like Gen X, I feel like a lot of people say they're Christian, but they're not really Christian. Like they like their nominal Christianity is a big thing in this country.
Oh yeah.
I think that whole pretense is just going to go like in the next census. But
and part of that is less, there's less cultural, there's less privilege, and there's just less cachet in being a Christian. There's
and as the people who are really loud about being Christian are more and more of the Christian nationalist type.
Yeah, and that's got
shout out to our comrades in Bolivia, the indigenous people putting up the struggle, fighting the real fight. Like I thought it was like, because it's not just an oil war, it's a religious war as well. It's these Christian nationalists coming here and saying indigenous people are fucking satanic, and it's fucking that shit's not gonna fly anymore.
No, it feels like I'm seeing in real time the stuff that I read about in things like Barbara Ehrenreich's Dancing in the Streets, which I just reread. Gotta check that out because it's all about the suppression of social dance, ecstatic ritual, Dionysian.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was like, I heard that before. I was like, oh, you tweeted about it. Yeah.
So good.
That's another thing that just me. I fucking love the movie Fiddler on the Roof because group dancing is such an incredible thing we don't have as a culture here in America. We are a bunch of fucking orphans drowning in plastic is what we are. And like it's so fucking stupid that Europeans colonized themselves and then colonized everyone else. It's like we're going to throw our own culture into the fire to fucking work for the king or whatever the fuck for fucking diplomatic alliances. We're going to convert to Christianity, and then also we're going to force everyone else to do it as well. It's just
and we're going to use our social capital to make sure that everybody is too busy imitating the nobility and bourgeois to to keep to these old school traditions. And in the end, you end up with things that formerly only priests and priestesses could do, turning into children's rhymes and nursery games.
Mhm.
And, you know, not that there's necessarily shame in that. You know, somebody thought it was important enough to save. They just threw it in with the kids thing.
I look forward in great fascination to the anthropological records about Wicca. I'll never live long enough to and the reemergence of paganism that I'll never live long enough to read. But it's going to be, it's fascinating what's developing. And a lot actually, the fuck was his name? But the founder of the largest modern Druid society in Scotland was no, it was like Walter or something.
So
I have it in my notes. Sir what?
Walter Scott?
He has like 5 names, but he was also an anarchist.
Walter Scott was not an anarchist. No. That's wild. I had no idea. Hello? Might be experiencing some technical difficulties over here. Do get us in, everybody. Everybody. Oh, wow.
Oh, sorry, I'm back. Probably not.
Hey, all right.
But George Scott McGregor Reed or something. George Watson McGregor Reed. George Watson McGregor Reed, I think was his name. I just looked at it, but he's got, like I said, he's got 5 names. But yeah, and I think starting with the individual, right? And it starts with an individual discovering they're connected with the world, through paganism, they're connected with the spirits, they're connected with the world within this world, as Paul Eluard said. And this re-enchanting of it. And I think looking at like these grand narrative, like, you know, you have modernism, postmodernism. I think now we're in metamodernism, where we're seeing this critique of it, right? Like modernism, Christianity, and then postmodernism is like atheism. It's this disillusionment with it. And I was an atheist fairly briefly. I felt like there was something more, but it definitely wasn't Christianity. And I think with that critique against the system, but then rather than just abandoning all hope and being a nihilist, we were constructing new meta narratives. We're constructing a new sense of greater meaning that rather than just abandoning like falling to nihilism or whatever, we're rebuilding something that once was, but better than it was before. We're looking to the past to build the future while not mimicking the past, right? Like fascists want to build a facsimile of the past.
Yeah.
They want to build this fictional version of the patriarchy where the man's down on his ass playing video games all day and women didn't eat hot chip, be bisexual, twerk all day, charge their phones.
Oh my god. Oh, I remember when that one went around. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. Yeah, no, they claim to love their country,
like
they love
the actual patriarchy. Like, you look at all these fucking Kaiser ass motherfuckers. Best part of them is their facial hair, for one, and 2, they're all like super fucking stressed out all the fucking time.
Yes,
and everyone was an alcoholic, and they were on fire, and it was terrible. And I don't know, the French, Austria sucks. What the fuck? None of it fucking makes sense. It's like everyone's fighting wars over shit they can't even remember why they started the war. It's awful. It's awful. Like how do you legitimately have a war for 100 years? And then after doing that, centuries later, have a war for 30 years and still think it's my brain's melting slightly. But right? Like fascists want to create this facsimile of the past, where when men were men and blah blah blah. Whereas we pagans and especially leftists look to the past and realized, oh, you remember when the like most important people in society were a bunch of priestesses who had sex constantly and were like men in women's clothing and shit, and were like dancing around having orgies in order to like get free bread for the temple or whatever the fuck. That shit, that's my shit. We're gonna do that, but we're gonna do it with fucking computers, and we're gonna do it with fucking neon hair dye, and it's gonna be the best shit. And that's what we're doing. That's great.
I'm loving it, dude. Like,
yeah. I'm not entirely sure what I just said, but
no, it's all
somewhere in there. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the sort of thing where, and if you're talking to these fascists, they hate the real old carnival, which is like what Ehrenreich talks about this. She has a whole chapter on how the fascist spectacle.
Bro, Odin's
like
gender fluid.
Imitation.
Also, his name's not even Odin; it's Othin. It's Othin, and they're Othin. It's a sound, is what I'm trying to say, and they're fucking gender fluid as hell.
Yes.
Ishtar, Ishtar is a good.
The British Museum. Me, my swishy allfather.
Honestly, like if you want to look like a character in popular media that's the most like Odin, it's fucking Frankenfurter. And like yeah.
Fucking do I? Oh my god.
It clicks once you actually read the stories. It fucking clicks. ContraPoints also gives me Odin vibes sometimes.
Yes, especially with how much
like not actual Natalie, but like the persona she puts on in the videos.
How much
the pills and the wine and the
That's that weird Odin, Mercury, Hermes.
Yeah, because it's the like endless search for knowledge, but also the endless search for pussy.
And also just tinkering with language and seeing, hey, what can I make with this? And I think that we need to make sure that there's room for doing that.
Yeah, while like Scoffy Strands, I have a whole YouTube video about that. And actually, I think one of the more interesting ones is Gefyun, and I haven't found any like research or writing about this. But if you look at the etymology, like just reading the Wikipedia page, or you look at the etymology of Gefyun, and you look at the things associated with Gefyun, it makes it clear that they have a male name and they have associations with like plowing and planting and stuff, which are not things women are typically associated like that specific side. Like there are female agricultural deities, but they represent the earth itself. They represent the field. They don't represent the
harvest,
plowing. Yeah. And they're specifically associated not with womanhood, and they have a male ending of the name. That's very, very, very rare to be used for female names. And they have an association with a very specific type of dress, which you can still find linguistic evidence of in Finland because it's back and forth with Sweden. So it makes me think perhaps this is a more male figure who's associated specifically with women's clothing. It's a femboy god. This is what I'm trying to say.
Loving it.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't in a traditional society, you wouldn't cast out somebody like that. You'd be like, you want to wear a dress while you plow the fields? Okay.
Vikings did an okay job with that. I have a lot of problems with that show, but I think it had trans representation that it wasn't an issue. And like obviously, like sometimes you need confrontational representation, but like that was good.
Last Kingdom kind of goes there, not much. At least I haven't.
I don't know. I get bored of the whole like brooding Viking thing. Even if it's like sexy, leather, cool, bisexual Viking, it's still like dark and broody. And that's why I like the Gaelic shit more, because in like fiddle, dancing, colors, actual colors.
Yeah,
please,
no.
Somebody give me a historical drama with colors. They had so many colors, please. Just, not everything was brown and gray all the time.
And that's one
Yeah.
way where I am forced to wonder to what degree, like, that that image of the Celts and the Irish, to what degree that's marketing, like, because
Yeah.
of the British Empire basically exporting everything cool and fun to be things that those weirdo foreigners do. And I don't know, I just think that
Yeah.
the British Empire spent centuries and centuries psychically exporting, anything that was joyful to,
Yeah.
like, out of, it, as un-British, oh, they're having a bit too much fun.
Yeah. No. Like, why the fuck did all the colors, like, clothing was so, like, throughout the ancient world, it was so colorful. Like, even poor people's
Yes.
clothing, like, they had the more limited selection of colors, but it was still being made from, like, flowers and shit. So it was super bright. And actually, I have some natural dyed clothes here. This was like a stone gray, these tactical pants. And now it's this awesome, like, salmon color. And I have some, like,
Oh,
other
cool.
pants that I've dyed. Natural dyes are awesome. In some Japanese villages, they still do a thing where the clothes themselves are like gray and like beige and stuff, and white, just natural fiber colors. And because the natural dyes wash out slowly over time, they re-dye them together as like a communal event every year. They make a load of dye baths and they dye them all sorts of different colors each year, because, like, it's a white piece of clothing, but every year you dye it a different color.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah, and just the recreate, because, like, that's one thing modern paganism lacks in a variety of ways, is the collective side of it, which is one of, if not the most important element of pagan practice, is the collective side of it. And
It's a bugger to do, because
yeah,
modern life, or postmodern life, requires so much of our time and attention to to just be on the ball, that you can't take 3 days off for a festival, and if you do, then there's all kinds of red tape and stuff just to get that
yeah,
much.
which is why I think when these rituals do happen, they're probably more explosive than the old ones used to be. Like, when you only have one night, you jam all that energy into a smaller night.
So you're operating
I
on kind of a catharsis model there. You're
yeah, perhaps, I don't know,
okay.
but
No, it's
like, I have a good friend who does
a
full
legit
moon
thing.
stuff, and, like, it's just interesting because so much of it's been lost. And, like, you start with the individual finding. It's the same way with anarchism. It's like you find some books or you find some shit on the internet and you do it yourself in your bedroom, but then eventually you start to associate with other people freely. And I think because of the limited viability, stuff like Wicca, and I think it'd be very hard to get, like, no, this is strict Anglo-Saxon reconstruction, no, this is specifically Frankish heathenry, this and this specific, that is going to be a lot less, as the only other people looking to do anything remotely related are witches and whatnot, and Wiccans. And you start getting a more merging of things as people associate their ideas, begin to bounce off of each other, and they build new ideas organically. It starts growing like a fucking tree.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's so much evidence of the merging of these traditions, and sort of, moving them along in almost a dialectical way.
Yeah.
Where, and the interesting thing about talking about traditions. Yeah.
New World European pagans, for the love of fuck, for the love of anything, look into, like, indigenous attitudes towards spirits in your area, like the land you lived on. Look, like, here's a pro tip: if you're in the Virginia area, don't do offerings of alcohol directly into the ground. This attracts negative spirits. Look into how the Powhatan practiced, depending on where you are. Like, just like, obviously you're not going to, like, reconstruct their entire fucking religion yourself, because it's not your tradition, but it is tied to the land, and what you're doing still needs to be tied to the land. Like, Thor has relevance here, but the local spirits, they're not going to function the same way the Landvetir did in Sweden.
No, I feel that big time.
Mm-hmm.
One of my other practices as I'm walking around the city is, every time, and this happens more than I care to say, but every time I find like somebody's discarded blunt wrapper and there's still tobacco in there, I pick it up and I put it in the stash, and that's where I get my offering tobacco, because
Mm-hmm.
it's
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 food,
not
not
my
bombs.
medicine plant,
It's
but
what
it's the
the
medicine plant.
diggers. It's what
The
the
idea
diggers
that,
did. Yeah.
the idea that uh, the idea that the medicine plant should end up in the landfill is, it
Mm-hmm.
it turns my stomach. Imagine what it would do to somebody whose stomach had a right to be turned by that. But like,
Yeah.
the idea is, at each big ritual, I always say, I don't have the words, I don't have the gestures, I don't have the song and dance, but you've been good to me. I want to stay in your good books, and I want to
And of course, don't
free the
don't
people
go
that I
too
want to free
into
the
it,
people
'cause-
that
yeah.
know how to venerate you to
Yeah,
venerate
because
you.
a lot of indigenous practices, and this is also true for a lot of new African practices, are very secretive for a fucking reason, and that needs to
Mhm.
be respected.
Yeah,
But like just general attitudes, like how to deal with local spirits and stuff, is something you need to do, and you need to be building actual dialogue with it. Like, actually, like make an effort to go out to publicly facing events for indigenous people and whatnot, because they're at the
yeah,
forefront of it. And like, well, eco thing, yeah, I think that'll be a good second stream. We're at almost an hour now, and I have stuff I need to do.
yeah.
So
I
I think
better
we should
get.
do a follow-up stream about eco activism,
Yeah, that
eco
sounds cool.
organizing, and paganism. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's lots to be said there. Hey, thanks for an amazing stream.
No
Hope everybody
problem.
out there has a great time.
Ciao,
And
ciao.
later.
Google Bookchin.
Yes, Google Murray Bookchin.